Hey everybody, it's not Friday, so we're not in love, but we are back for Carnival of Randomness, and we have, of course, the official drummer of Carnival of Randomness, Greg.
Hello!
And this time we're very glad to have Steve Princeton, a.k.a. DJ Darkwave, as a guest. Hey.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, again, I ask everybody this question, it's the obvious question in terms of, you're busy, you're doing your stuff, then COVID hits. What happened?
That was hard. I mean, I was doing the club thing, and, I've been doing that for over 20 years now, but... that hit, and it was just like all of a sudden 1 week we're there, and next week we're not. And, at first you're thinking, oh, maybe it's just a couple weeks, whatever.
I thought,
you'll get back to it, but man.
I always say we never went through this. So
right, no.
I'm going, by Easter.
Right.
I had friends who toured. They're like, we had to skip. It'll be done by Easter. Maybe Easter of 2023.
Yeah. I had been doing a little bit of streaming from the club at that point online, but then, once it realized it was going to be longer than a couple weeks, I started doing a Twitch show, so I was doing streaming at home and, doing the whole video and all that stuff.
I had my concert tour, basically, where all my friends doing live shows every week. It's like, okay, 3 o'clock today, 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah. It got to be, almost a job just trying to keep up with that and supporting everybody else doing that.
Yeah, and there's so many of them.
Yeah, there's so many of them, and... you want to kind of do something fun and interesting, but after a while, it's just like, man, there's just so much.
It's a culture shock, too, when you're, like, on the scene, or, like, Greg drumming, or you're like, I got a gig today, there's a show tomorrow, let's go check this out. Right. Some nights of the week, it might be, hey, there's 3 different places to go see. It's like, let's see if maybe I'll do the laundry.
I cleaned my basement for a good 2 months.
Nice.
You know what I did? I actually I pulled out the old Atari.
Oh, yeah?
And the thing about it was, man, those graphics sucked.
They were terrible.
It's like, what is this guy? This is like something. Is that an adventure? Is that fat-looking seahorse supposed to be a dragon?
Yeah, then my regular job, too, we started working from home, so I was just home all the time, working all the day, and, we're doing the DJ thing. It's just like, man, I got to get out of this house.
Yeah.
It's hard.
But how is, I've known, like, a lot of DJs around. What is, like, in terms of modern DJing like the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, it's become much more technical. We got away from... I was never much of a vinyl guy because all the stuff I play really wasn't available on vinyl when I started DJing. So, I started with CDs, obviously, and now it's all moved on to the computer. And which, I enjoy doing that because it allows me to play music videos and it gives you a little bit more control. Some people say it's not real DJing, but whatever, For me, it's about the result, not how you get there, It's if you're entertaining people and people are having fun and enjoying it, does it really matter if I'm playing it on a computer or if I'm, if I'm using CDs or whatever, but...
That would be almost like live music. Like, what if you guys went up and you pressed a button and you played all the music?
Well, I remember even when I was doing libraries at home on my own computer, my old computer, not this one. I haven't tried it, but there was a feature on there where you could set the gap between the songs.
Yeah.
So, you could have all these songs would just dovetail and go into each other.
Yeah.
So, you could almost do your own thing just like that. Put 10 songs together and there you go.
You can. You can allow the software to do as much or as little as you want. Whether that comes down to, your own style of working, the way you work.
It goes a lot way back to the day when we were kids. Probably both of you did it, where you get that tape recorder, put it next to your radio.
Right.
Then your mom would come in, quiet.
You ruined it. I got to start
over. Dinner's ready.
Right.
Like, I don't remember that sample in this
you'd
song.
have like Rockline or all those other shows on, especially like on Sunday nights, like MJQ, they'd have all those shows on.
The Flower
they'd
Hour
actually,
and
or they'd
all
have
that
King
stuff.
Biscuit's Flower, or they'd actually have like CMF. They'd play like a whole album.
Well, I used to record a lot of stuff through the receiver. I would just plug a deck in to the receiver.
You would make the mixtape for your friends, which is like you putting the one song on. You hear like the needle on your record go down.
Yeah.
It's sticking.
Right.
I'm all excited now because I bought a USB thing with a turntable, and I'm recording all these old 45s and shit that I got.
Yeah, I tried to do that with tapes, and the tape decks were just terrible. The quality is terrible.
Yeah.
But I think, what we do sometimes, we realize time marches on, and I think, and again, whatever you like, you like. That's part of this show,
It's stomping on me.
It's been going too fast. But I think what happens to a lot of us is we get that weird sense of nostalgia where, like, because I grew up with albums or something, they're the best.
Right.
And you don't want to give something else a try. Like, I'm still not like some of my good friends, Alyssa Trahan, she just came out with her new one. First, you can get it on cloud and everything. And I said, Alyssa, when's it going to come out in a physical copy? And I get the email, you can get your online. I said, I don't want my online. I want my.
I know.
Yeah, it's just not a thing anymore. And I feel bad for younger generation doesn't get that. Even with CDs, you take the palette and you smell, and you get that smell
albums.
of the printing.
That was the thing with the albums. Like, you look at the cover, you get like the stuff.
Yeah. It just doesn't mean anything.
But the thing is, it's revived, but now it's crazy expensive.
Yeah,
you go to Target even, and then they want $20 for these albums and 25. I even went to Record Archive the other day because I had this bug in my bonnet for I didn't have Led Zeppelin 2, so I wanted Led Zeppelin 2. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to find it. No CDs, no used ones. So I ended up buying a $24 180-gram vinyl.
Wow, like the super thick,
But it does sound really good.
Then, they're all remastered, and I know probably now you get this outtake, this thing they played when they were drunk at a wedding, and a piece of cake for those extras. I love the extras now. I think the first CD I ever bought was Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, nice.
And it had all the Velvet Goldmine, all these other extras on there.
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself, okay, were these like some bands like Zeppelin, what they played were on those albums for us, so there's not like the huge thing. But like the Stones, like one book said like they took like a lot of songs for Tattoo You, they were like, hey, all these songs were left over parts and everything. And you wonder, is it like some movies where they didn't have the time and these are good, or did they leave them out for a reason?
Well, I remember reading something about that particular. One guy was in France, one guy was here. They were just sending files back and forth, and they were kind of doing that whole thing. They were just kind of doing stuff sort of remotely before remotely was a thing. But yeah, they had like a riff here and a riff there, and then Mick Jagger would sing a part, and it was very
Keith Richards' time where they said they had he was difficult because they would say like they would lie to him because he might show up 10 hours later. So they'd come in like they'd tell him, well, we're going to practice at 7, they're going to practice like at 3, and they'd just come in and he'd be grinning like, you had to wait for me. It was called Keith Richards' time.
You got to work with what you got, right?
But it's weird thinking of like bands like the Stones. Well, now we're going to do Spotify.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. Or like Jim Morrison, LA Woman, I think he recorded in his bathtub to give that to Tom Waits Mule Variations, recorded in a barn.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just don't get that same sonic quality when you're listening to, Spotify, even at their highest levels. It's just not there.
And that's the thing too, and I'm only too technical and boring, but like even like the song writes your royalties from it and stuff. It's kind of weird how I still don't know how that works really.
What, publishing stuff?
For, like terms of Spotify or any of that, what you get for
you don't get much.
Yeah, you don't get much.
It's not a very good model from what I understand.
It doesn't replace physical.
And that's like but it goes into DJing. Like I remember when I was a kid, you get like the DJ out and they'd have to get the record out, and now you just bink.
Right. I mean, it is easier in some regards because, you've got a lot of independent bands out there and, they can't all afford to make physical media, so they'll be like, I'm going to put this out and they'll send it to you. I'm on a couple of different, record pools where I'll get stuff from artists so that, some of these people I would never hear of because they just don't have the money to get out there and everything's so self-produced now, which has its good and bad things, but at the same time, it allows people to just say,
I know I'm involved with that a little bit, and I just really like the idea that you can.
Yeah.
And that it could sound really good.
Yeah.
But how did you get into this?
How did I get into DJing? Yeah. Well, I mean...
You couldn't be a drummer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not talented enough to be a drummer. So.
Yeah.
No.
Well...
Oh, it's funny.
You graduated high school.
I just...
as you know,
you've never seen me DJ, so don't sell yourself short.
We'll switch over someday.
Okay, yeah.
Everybody will be not entertained.
Right. Hey, we really suck. Thank you.
No, I think when I was, in high school and at the end of my high school career, I was starting to really get into music, and it was more alternative stuff that most people hadn't heard. So I think a lot of it was just I just wanted people to hear this music, and I found that I sort of had a natural affinity for putting things together and making sort of a, for me, I always view DJing as kind of like the film director, right? I'm not the actor. I don't write the sound, the script, but for me, it's like bringing all that element together and trying to make people feel something over a course of however long you're doing.
I don't think the pacing of putting songs together gets enough credit.
Yeah, and it's really...
You can destroy a room, you can elevate the mood, you can depress the mood, you can do whatever you want just by putting certain songs in a certain order.
Yeah, and I would like to do that at parties first, and then I'm like, I really like doing this.
People don't get that about sets, and I'm learning that more and more how you order things.
Yeah.
How you do that. And I remember like one time one of my friends, he asked me, he said, what do you want to hear? And I said that, and he has smiles, he plays it, but he goes, that was like the same is the last one pretty
Right.
much.
Like you have that. Okay, this could be a good transition, but if you're like you've got these songs that, and that's what I find when people make requests a lot. They're like they'll request a song because it reminded the song that's playing now reminded them of something else. I'm like, yeah, that's
How
too.
much
That's
goes
too
into
close.
that, Greg? Though, like in terms of doing your set list, and then add living from it too.
Well, I don't have much to do with the set list, but I
Why?
think,
You can just play the song you want, and they'll have to go along.
yeah. Well, usually they're set up ahead of time. But I mean, Don and Susie is a good example. I mean, he has a pretty good sense of that. As far as like, sometimes you got to set it up so somebody gets a break here, or I can't do two big piano solos in a row, and you don't want to bore the people to death with the same thing. So. Or burn yourself out, or over, you know what I mean? You can over climax. You can only climax so many times as far as like reaching that apex.
For yourself.
You need that refractory period in there.
Creative climaxing.
Okay.
And then you add
Reaching
live a
the
little bit.
zenith, okay?
You sort of read the crowd sometimes and see how they're doing, and like say like people are dancing, so you go, well, we're going to do a ballad,
Well,
but let's get one to rock so they can go dance.
You switch things up, and then you read the room. You go, okay, this isn't going to work the way I thought. So then you kind of redo it. And then you have to start like, okay, then you're starting over, and now they're part of creating the mood because it's bouncing off them back to you, right?
And I think there's this thing too. It's got to be really cool, like for your music, DJing, everything. People come up to you and go, "Hey, what was that song?"
Yeah.
And you, get somebody who, hey, their eyes light up, and maybe they go get that album and they're
Get
a
lost,
fan.
kid.
Get away from me.
Yeah.
Well, so
Well,
actually-
after you do that, I mean,
Well, about 15 years ago, people had been asking me that, and I actually came up with this thing where I actually have a scroll at the bottom of my video screens that tell you the name of the song.
Oh, that's cool.
So people, they,
you ruined the mystery.
I ruined the whole thing. Well, and it's hard because a lot of the bands, you try to say the name, and people are like, what? What? And you try to spell it for them, like, what?
Right, yeah.
Like, it's on the screen. Just read it there. But it works.
And the thing is, remember, but that was like a thing when we were kids too. Like you might hear the song, and it would take years till you found
Right, exactly
who did it.
right.
Like I heard
Right.
"Ship's Song" by Nick Cave,
Yeah.
and like some John Cale stuff. And until I got those albums, I had no idea.
Right. More of the mystery again of music that I think got lost somewhere along the way.
Well, I
but-
think it's like this. There's good and bad always. I mean, people just always, the curmudgeons in us always go, "Oh, this sucks now." But
Right.
there's
These
so
kids these
much.
days.
There's so much out there. There's so much out there. But sometimes you get overwhelmed and drowned in it because there is
for
so
sure.
much out
I mean,
there.
I have to be honest. I'm not up on a lot of new stuff. I pretty much write off a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with it.
I know him and I do have this Billie Eilish joke thing, but
Right.
it's like
Blame Adriana. That's the only reason.
no, but it's just where do these people come from, and who decides that they're the next big thing?
Right.
All of a sudden, out of all the people in the pool, all of a sudden
This
it's
caught
this
on
one.
something.
Next
you
big
know.
thing for this month.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
Then
yeah,
it's
that
somebody
too.
else.
But it just, it's like I never heard of her or whoever it is, and it's like, man, it's like there's just I don't even know where to look half the time.
Right.
I do the
Unless I
version.
hear.
I do the same thing we did when we were in high school. Where like I'll ask a friend and I'll go, "What have you been listening to?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they
No,
go,
that's
"Check
good.
this out." That's how, like I said, Josh Sinetsky, the Fruit Bats.
Right.
That's still what I do. I do go to people I trust, and they'll tell me stuff.
Right.
And that is one
Yeah,
good
that's
thing about
cool.
Spotify, though, too, because they will give you like recommendation daily lists. Like, okay,
Some
you
of
like
those
you
are
like this,
weird,
you might
though.
like this, and
Some of those,
and you can listen. Your friends can also.
some of those are weird. Though what they
Oh,
pick
yeah.
of, like I was playing a Zombies song, and they recommended Todd Rundgren. And I'm, how did they make
How did
this
they come
connection?
up with what algorithm came up with that?
Right.
Yeah. But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But even that weird stuff, though, sometimes you'll hear something, you'll be like, you're kind of listening to this list, and all of a sudden something's like, wait a minute, what is this? This is similar, but it catches your ear.
But that would be like, say you got something like the DJ, and they want a specific thing you don't like. Say, suppose they want you to do polka. How much research would you have to do?
I wouldn't do it because it's.
That is the greatest music known to mankind.
Nothing against the music. It's just it's not. People even ask. I've done weddings before, and I'll tell people, I will only do your wedding if you want me to play the kind of music that I already play. Because I
Well,
don't
then you
know
don't do
top
many
40.
weddings.
I don't. You're right. I do very few, but I don't know top 40. It's it's not the kind of music that I'll feel like I'm doing. I won't know if I'm doing it right or if it's entertaining it, and it just doesn't hold any meaning for me doing stuff that I don't connect with personally.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
for me, I really like to feel, something about it, and
Right.
otherwise it's just, what's the
Well,
point?
I know, like, some of your tastes I know about. I think you would have been at home at Club X.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. I used to go there all the time. And
I probably ran into
Idols, Vertex is where I DJ now at Vertex. I've been doing that for 20 years. Yeah.
I still know. I know where the place is. I always walk by it.
Yeah.
But how have they been doing since this stuff's been?
It was rough because obviously, you closed down the dance floor, and it means you have to really reduce the amount of people. We were staying open kind of as a bar thing, but reduced capacity. Fortunately, we do have an outside deck, so when the weather was nice, people could be outside and ordering drinks. So we managed to get through it. We didn't.
Still remember the nightmare for Christmas.
I work out at Hero. I'm gonna have to go in there sometime.
Yeah, we're right next to Hero.
I always get lost though. I touch Danny Averly. He's like, he starts laughing at me.
They're right around the corner.
I've gone there more. It's weird. I know some of the. You ever dabbled in goth, Greg? Like goth music?
Just from playing with Earl Cram and those guys.
It's been so long. I can't. I could picture them in my head, but I can't remember the music that much.
That music was a lot more. Like I don't know exactly how to explain.
He's trying to be diplomatic.
Like Sam had some weird songs. He had a song called "Lesbian Dungeon," and he had another song, "Pull the Trigger," and it was a lot more. The images were a little more.
Remember when we had
edgy,
Chaz on with the Bad Enoughs, the songs, some of them Dead Pope in the Road, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, and again, when I'm in a band like that, and if I'm not familiar with that music, then I start looking into the music, I start listening to it. Oh, I grab elements from it that I like, that speak to me.
Right, exactly.
and that's how you grow your catalog, and so to speak. Your tool belt or whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden you have more things to draw from. So I'm open to anything. So
well, it would seem like, and I'm going to be wrong. I'm just an amateur, but like Sisters of Mercy, it would seem like it's very that same beat over and over, like almost hypnotic.
Really,
them I'm not familiar with.
They're not super complicated when it comes to the drumming, and a lot of those bands do electronic type drummings. It's not. A lot of them don't, have live drummers.
I would just like to see you like with the makeup and a wig.
I mean, I used to like stuff like The Call and things like that. I mean, it's got good grooves. It's like it sounds like a bunch of guys really playing, and the guy's voice is cool, and
what got me like the movie The Hunger, because I had a huge crush on Catherine Deneuve,
right?
And they played Bela Lugosi's Dead, which I play every Halloween.
Right. That's a classic. I mean, it gets to the point now where I barely ever play that one because it got so overplayed.
You know what my song was for quarantine when it started with the whole big quarantine was "Enjoy the Silence."
Oh yeah. Depeche Mode is always there. Depeche Mode is my top favorite. Since '85, they've been my favorite.
See, I like that stuff. I remember I really liked. No, it's going to escape me now.
No, I've heard that song before.
No, a lot of those not In Excess. There was another band.
Excess was my favorite before them. So.
But I like
In Excess is like a lot of my friends says about In Excess.
XTC.
That's XTC. Yeah, I have their albums at home. But a lot of people say that about In Excess. They go, I would love like a greatest hits.
Oh, there's a couple of greatest hits out there.
But there's huge. But you know what I mean? Where like other people were into everything.
Right. Yep.
But they're one of those bands. I think somebody, no matter what you like, is going to like something.
Yeah.
Because they're
right.
How do you define them really? They could be really poppy, they could be really out there.
Yeah, and their earlier first couple of albums were a little bit of punk, before they broke out in the US. There's stuff, there's like a little bit of a punk element to some of that because it's kind of raw and harsh stuff. But
I like some of that industrial stuff too.
Yeah.
Like
Front 242,
Gang of Four, stuff like that. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I try to avoid labeling things with genres just because
I try to,
but sometimes you kind of have to fall back when you're trying to explain something to somebody. Like,
that's what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And the thing also, remember,
like?
I think we made this point on the show about, this is the big thing about the show is you like what you like. We're not here to, you suck.
Yeah. You're wrong for liking that.
Yeah.
I always love it.
But I mean, I like a lot of music that doesn't even have drums. I mean, it doesn't have to have drums for me to like it.
Well, it would be an easy paying gig for you to stand there chewing gum or something. But I think
I'm tired.
And Bauman made this point on the show before. Like, think about like when we were in high school. Number one, you get the people, you have to like the popular music, but you get your metalheads, your goths, your popular music, and you would have to be in that group.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid, like if you were like a Metallica fan and somebody, hey, he just got Sting's new album. I saw him.
Right.
You would be like a social pariah.
Yeah. Well, it's like, especially in Rochester. I mean, you guys might. I don't know if you went to the police show at Hollander Stadium in '83.
Oh goodness!
Remember that?
I just remember Fluffy got booed the
yeah, they were
shit out of them.
That was not their event, but they actually came back the year after and played Idols, and they were great. I mean, that's the perfect.
I
kind
love
of
the
venue.
Fix. Yeah, I love
the Fix was great. Yeah, but man, the
what's the sound
just did
system
not work.
stunk too?
Oh, yeah,
they
it
always
was not
the
good.
sound system.
See, when the Fix came to Water Street, Earl Cram opened for him.
Oh, nice.
Or it was either that or Velveteen Fox, but it was one of the bands with Susie.
Oh, Susie and her bands. It's like we could spin the
Can't keep track
wheel
of those.
or whatever so you get out there and everything.
Well, that was a fun gig, though. I mean, we didn't get to talk to him or anything, but I didn't care.
That's one of the big things as being like a music lover is like growing up. Like one of my great friends, Rob Mount, he drummed for Lou Gramm for a couple of years. People are opening for bands I know. You know, one of my friends, now I don't know what they've been doing for 30 years, but she's opening for Molly Hatchet.
Jeez.
But think when you're like growing up and you think you see these bands and all of a sudden your friends are playing with them or opening for them or whatever.
Right.
It's like Greg's the new drummer in Kiss.
Yeah.
Of course, you get a lot of bands that have come back and like, it's the same band. It's like
There's
one
like
guy.
one dude. No, it's the cousin, the second cousin of one guy.
Right.
And I would say that's like one thing. Love them or not like them, and I think everybody loves the Smithereens. It was all the same guys.
Yeah.
ZZ Top. Well, they did have other members when they started, but all the albums,
the main
three, they played on every album together. Rush, like them, not like them. Every same guy. Then you get these other bands. I won't even name them. They call them like a lot of faceless bands. What they call them. It's like one guy. He joined in the third album. He got the second cousin of this guy. He got the kid of this guy.
Right.
Well, that's like what Rob was saying a few shows ago about Foreigner, and because if you look at their albums, there's hardly ever any pictures of. They were not a pretty boy band. Right. They weren't. Like he called him a faceless.
That's Rob Mount's.
Mount, yeah, and he was right because if you look at their things, they only have pictures on a couple records, and in effect, Mick Jones is running his own cover band. Right. At this point,
in a way too, because I think he always had that
experience.
I think he always had that though, because he was the guy when he came in. He was his spooky tooth, so he thought he was the old guard, and then everybody else. Had to listen to him or whatever.
They were Leslie West, too, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Long time ago.
Cool. Yeah. Cowboy music.
Cowboy music.
Okay, say your piece.
Steve,
if you have anything to comment, say your piece about cowboy music and why we're goofing out.
I just like Sons of the Pioneers. That's all I said. I like their vocals.
Okay, that's why. We're going to do we're going to wear the hats. We're going to have a campfire.
The whole thing.
We're going to get kicked out of the studio.
Well, but that whole genre, though, the singing cowboy thing, you watch those movies like Gene Autry and all these movies. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. The guy's on a horse with a guitar.
I'm going to break out and sing. I'm going to shoot you, but I'm going to sing a ballad.
It's sort of a fantastic, it's like a euphoric, weird thing to begin with. These guys out of nowhere, he's on a guitar, on his horse. Then all of a sudden, stagecoach. You gotta go,
The only one was it was smarter with Roy Orbison in the left-handed gun where there was a gun in his guitar.
Yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah.
But that's the thing.
Clint Eastwood up there. Did
and
you
I
ever
think
do that?
Yeah, right.
Could you imagine? Well, he was in Paint Your Wagon, so I think he sung that.
Yeah, he must have.
With Lee Marvin. But that's another thing is like I was talking about those Atari games, how even like everything, you think about like when we grew up, how video games look, how they look now.
Yeah.
Right.
And pretty soon we're just going to have those VR things. We're never going to come into reality.
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting chased by Godzilla now. Leave me alone.
I have a VR. I actually got it for my kids for Christmas, and I can't wear it for more than 20 minutes without feeling like seasick. And it's just.
I checked one out. They're pretty weird.
Yeah, I mean they're great because you can do all sorts of stuff with it. But for me, at my age, whatever.
First-person shooters would do that to me. I'd start getting the sweats and start going on. Do I want to keep doing this? They get the sweats and like vertigo and everything.
Well, one of my COVID projects was I had an old arcade game. We had an old Mr. Do cabinet. I don't know if you're familiar with that old arcade game.
No.
But,
what is it? Explain. I was like the timeout dude. I should know all these.
It's kind of like a Dig Dug kind of thing, if you remember.
Okay, that
Dig Dug
I got.
is similar, but it was kind of a. But we've had this old cabinet in my house, and I basically took out all the guts and I put in a new one. You can get this, so the one that comes out is like a 12 inches by 12 inches. I replaced it with this little one that's like 6 inches by 4 inches, and there's 60 games on there.
Wow!
So it's got all these games, like all of the.
I've been doing Galaga.
Galaga.
Greg, did you have a favorite one when you were growing up?
Arcade game?
Yeah.
Joust.
Yeah, that was
with
great
the little ostrich.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was freaking cool game.
My favorite one was Robotron 2084. If you remember that one, I had the two.
Yeah.
You had one was the moving and one was the shooting one. You had to rescue all the people from the robots.
That's a good one. I was like Galaga.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I love that one.
And
too.
I found asteroids drove me nuts because I would fly the ship and hit the freaking rocks because I couldn't stop.
Right. Yeah, they don't have brakes on spaceships usually. So
it seemed like a little more like you had a little more control over what you were doing in those games. Now I don't know.
You got to ride the little ostrich with the lance on it. That's pretty cool.
I used to play with my girlfriend's son. I played a couple of the Pokemon things, and I just don't get. It took me a while. But this button there, this turn left, this is jump, this is this is jump, this is low left, this is
8 buttons and 2 joysticks.
And these guys are going nuts with it, and I'm just like, wait a minute, I keep banging into the wall. Yeah.
Oh, when you first do it,
the old Ataris with just one button, and
right.
I can handle that.
That's when I knew I got old, when I pulled that Atari out during COVID, and I got a stiff neck playing it because I was turning my head. I was like, we're old now.
Right, we are
but yeah,
old.
they got like 70 buttons. They're eating a pizza while they're playing. You're hitting the ceiling and everything else.
It's pretty crazy.
But those are that's everything advances like that.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do about it, and complaining is not going to get you anywhere either. So you just kind of got to roll with it.
No, you're right. Kids these days.
And they're a lot smaller.
Yeah, it's cool, and you can do them on your phone now.
Yeah.
Where it's like big clunky. You'd have to bring in the arcade games.
No, and you can do so much with so little these days.
And not only do you DJ, you play.
I do. I play keyboards in a Cure cover band called Disintegration. So.
But it fell apart.
It did fall apart, but we got back together. We've actually fallen apart 3 times, and we're on our third.
How'd you? And that's
You're going to call it reintegration.
And I always we talk about this every time, like with Greg. Now, when you do, I always say there's a difference. Like you have a different band, like Greg's in his bands. And you're going to play a Cure song. You could say, let's funky it up. Let's do something. Now, when you play a cover band, they want to hear the songs the way they're played.
Yeah, and we kind of struggle with this. Like, are we a tribute band? Are we a cover band? We don't pretend to be the Cure. What we do is we love the songs, so we just find, we play them as faithfully as we can with 6 guys, because some of those, studio albums, he's using 60-track recordings, but, we just kind of, we kind of go for the feel of the songs as really what we got to go for. But, and, I think we do a great job of it, and we enjoy doing it for the most part,
Now, I always say that's a lot of people that they don't get the difference between a tribute and a cover band.
Right.
A tribute band is when the guys, they try to dress like them.
Right.
They try to like really like you're looking at a mini show.
Exactly.
And they're trying to pretend to be them. Now a cover band, you come in, they go songs of the Cure, songs of,
Right.
but it's the guys.
Right. It's like if you're a Kiss band or tribute band,
You're
you're
gonna
going to wear all the matches. You're going to wear all the makeup.
Number one, you're going to get sued by Gene Simmons.
But
you know what Gene did? I guess what they did was, I guess they told these bands, we're going to sue you unless you play at our Kiss cons for free.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that guy was kind of a piece of work, I think, but let's not get into that.
Yeah, but a lot of bands love him because I guess like Robert Plant, I saw a band called Dread Zeppelin. It was a guy Tort Elvis. He looked like Elvis. They sung Zeppelin songs to an Elvis impersonator with a reggae beat.
Wow.
And they played. You could find them. They played it backstage. And the rumor was Robert Plant said that was the only Zeppelin band that he liked.
Right.
I've heard. Debbie, my girlfriend, has a bluegrass Zeppelin thing that's pretty cool. And she's got an AC/DC one, too.
Oh, yeah?
And I know Roth did one, Strumming with the Devil.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a cool when you listen to these things.
Yeah,
I mean it's just
if you
chords.
can reinterpret
it's
something
like,
and make something new out of it. That's art, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how all art works.
And that's like a lot of stuff. Even like I'll take something cheesy like Christmas albums. You have 1,000 of them, but they take those songs like Scott Weiland did Blue Christmas to like a ska beat.
If I'd never heard another Christmas
then there's
song,
the Christian. Then there's the Christian AC/DC band, Highway to Heck. No, just kidding.
Yeah, hey, you can see that, right?
Yeah, we're on a high. If you do Highway to Hell, and you go, now if you're naughty, here's where you're going. I think you're in there. You're in there.
You're on the highway to hell, but we can bring you back.
That's right.
No, but that's cool, and I think obviously people, that's cool in terms of like a niche where people who love the stuff could go see it. Maybe they see it too cheaper.
Yeah, we
or if they're dead, some bands.
We try to maybe do 1 or 2 shows in Rochester. We do shows out of town. We've done Syracuse. We've done, in our first iteration, we went to New York City. We did shows down there and in Albany. But the last couple times we haven't really expanded too far out of
with
mostly
these
Western New York.
days
Yeah.
too, it's just bad.
Yeah, and you know, all of us are kind of, you know, getting older, so it's like harder to just, you know, drop everything and hey, let's go do a couple of shows in New York City. You know, it's great if you can do it, but it's not a money making venture, right? You're not gonna make a lot of money. Yeah, it's fun.
And have you done those cover bands like Greg, like a straight thing though, or like just where you play a lot of other rock songs? Well, I don't remember you ever doing like a straight like one band thing or whatever.
No. Most of the band I'm in the mix, the cover band I did strictly like Journey and a couple Foreigner songs, and there's a girl singer, so there's Stevie Nicks in the mix. Like, but you know, I like it because, like I said before, like when you got to learn all these different songs, you hear all these different drummers, different stylings. Right. You know, you can't just play your way. You have to sort of learn what this other guy did, and then you can kind of make it your own little by little. But, you know, like the Journey thing, Steve, it's not going to kill me to learn Steve Smith licks because the guy's great. Right. So if I learn stuff by him note for note, I'm helping myself.
It's got to be hard, though, when you're doing all those different bands.
It is.
So many different...
I keep saying, I tell all these musicians, I know one time you're going to start the song to your other band when you're playing.
I've done that on endings.
Yeah. I'm the only guy in our band that doesn't play in another band, so I'm like, good. All the rest of them are playing in other bands.
The current Rochester rule where there's like, you have to be in 5 bands.
Well, you know, I figure I'm the DJ and I play in the band. That's good enough, right? You know, that's the two things, right?
You know, that's something, too. I have to say that I feel like I'm a pioneer in that one because, man, I used to get so much crap from guys. Why don't you just stick with one band? And you're getting a bad reputation of some guy that just plays for money. And well, guess what? Everybody's doing it.
I get tired of that's one thing I've talked about long on here. Is somehow because you do something more like on the art side and music, people somehow think, it's, you know, paint my picture free. Play free.
For exposure, right? Yeah. That's the deal.
But it's like they don't realize it's also, it's cool, it's great, I love doing it, but it's also a job.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what if you went into work like one day and they said, just do it, we're not going to pay you.
Right. And a lot of people don't realize how much practice goes into doing those shows. You know, they'll come out for a show and it's a 2-hour show and whatever, but, you know, we would have spent weeks rehearsing.
Right.
Even at this point, we know the songs really well, but, you know, we come back to it and we'll rehearse 6, 7, 8 times before a show just to, you know, tighten it up. And that's a lot of, you put a lot of time and effort into that.
And I found, like, how does it work in your band? I know a lot of bands, what I've seen is they come from different genres in terms of the fans. I do know, like, one AC/DC band, it was a lot more... There'd be one a lot more the Bruce Johnson, the other one would be Bon Scott. Do you have like different eras and preferences here?
We're actually pretty good. I mean, all of us sort of like, you know, The Cure has been a lot of different things throughout the years. And I started out as a 3-piece and they have, you know, a lot of that simple stuff and then evolved into these much more complex. And all of the guys are actually, you know, fans of The Cure to different levels. So it wasn't like, you know, hey, come play in our band, The Cure. And they're like, oh, who? You know, it was everything.
Like, Greg, I'm going to start a Billie Eilish band. Come on down.
Right. Billy Idol? Who? What?
I'd have to do a crash course on that.
Right, yeah. So, we were pretty fortunate in that regard that everybody sort of already had a lot of the same love for the music.
And I think it's cool seeing people who, I always found this, like, especially in high school, when I went to a Catholic high school in the suburbs, you get that person who actually likes what you like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we heard it actually for The Cure, too. It was more our college radio station because they would just let us come in and play whatever we wanted. And I had On the Beach, the singles.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you know, we just enjoy the music, so we you know, we kind of got together. It was Mark Tishner, who's our singer, and I. It's got to be 23, 24 years ago. He just came to me one day and said, "Hey, you want to start a Cure cover band?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." You know, that's cool. And we got the guys together. We've gone through a couple of bassists, and
the drummers didn't blow up.
No, actually, we still got the same drummer and the same guitarist. We added another guitarist in this last go around, and. You know, it's the bassist we've been, you know, going through, but we've all been great.
Band, it's
great
always
musicians.
one,
right.
and I've always said a lot of times it's bassist for some reason. We always think the drummer.
Right. No, I mean they're all great musicians. It was just, you know, we would take a break and then when we come back, well, I can't do it now, so you know we'd find someone else to do it. And you know, a lot of the other guys, like I say, they work in the same bands together, so it's like, hey, maybe my bass player from my band, or you know, we'll
that's the one thing I could just say, like on the scene,
saves
like
time.
Many years ago. That's what I remember.
Right there.
I remember growing up. And I don't really recall, like, if somebody was in a band, they were in a band. And then later on, I mean, I lived away from here for, like, the decade of the 90s a lot. You came back, and that's when everybody was in 4 or 5 bands.
Right. Well, I think maybe there's a difference, too, when you're younger, because you're in a band because you want to be successful as that band, right? So you're going to put all your energy into this band. This is
right.
we're going to make it big. We're going to be huge. And as you get older, you get more mature. You realize, you know what? I just want to play music and I want to have fun with people.
Right.
So, every opportunity.
It's everybody's like that kid in Rushmore where like I'm on the wrestling team, I'm on the debate team.
Right.
What are you going up? Oh, I played bass in this one. I got to play drums in this one. Then I'm going to sing it the last one.
You
ever pulled those, Greg, where you've done like 3 or 4 like different bands in a day?
Yeah, at least 2.
Yeah.
I've done. Yeah, in fact I've done.
Did you play the right songs?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky because you got to really map it out in your head. Okay, this I got to have these symbols. I got to have this because rock band you got to have certain stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I've done it. I just pack up, run to the next thing, and I mean, I sort of look at it like a session guy. I look at it just like I'm doing the service, whatever I got to pull out this tool for the. It's just like.
You get to the point where you book your own show and you book all your bands, right? And then you just change your outfit between each one. So
That's it.
Put on a different hat for the other bands. Yeah. Hey, this is a completely different.
And you
guy.
are very content just doing one, right? Yeah. You're content doing just one.
Oh yeah, as far as the time, the amount of time I have to put into it, for being in the one band I like. I mean, I do some of my own stuff, but not. It's more for fun. I've got like 8 keyboards in my house that I play on, but I don't really. I don't make my own music anymore. I did when I was younger, right? When I was living in New York City.
Play it in your DJ thing, spring it on.
I do every once in a while. People will be, what is that? And I'm like, yeah, that's this thing I made,
Hank Williams III.
35 years ago, whatever. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm content doing just the one band for now. I've got a lot of other stuff going on in my life too. So
wow,
for me, it's good.
And for both of you now being musicians and being on the scene, as I'm seeing it myself being on the other side, going to stuff, how do you think it's coming back now? There's so many bands that want to get out. It's going to be a little tricky right now, or we're just going to ease our way back in.
There's going to be a glut for a while, and then it's going to level off like everything else.
Yeah, I mean, people are anxious to go. We've got a show kind of sort of booked that we're working on for July, but yeah, I think a lot of bands are just sort of, and I still think there's a little bit of apprehension. Like people aren't quite sure if they're ready to book, in some of these cases, but. Like we were open last night at the club for the first time with the dance floor. It was the first time we'd actually been open this week. So, and it was great. I mean, people were really anxious to get out, and I know that people are going to want to see bands and stuff too. So, it'll come back.
I mean, I was down at Whiskey River the other night because I played at Stutson Street. So we went down to Whiskey River after to have a beer and all that. So and get some wings. I've been dying to get some wings.
Yeah, I've seen their menu.
It's really good, but. We talked to the guy that books the bands. He's already booked up all the way into the fall. So, I mean, he's on it. He said, I started getting guys in January. And I just set it up because he goes, I knew this was going to end.
Right. And, as soon as we can, we're going to put you on the
There's
schedule.
a band, Age Barrel, my friend Kevin Smith from the American Moondogs. They just set up. They've been sending me demos. They've never played before. They rented a cabin, did a show. It's going to be coming up on the 25th. It's sold out.
Wow.
Like in a couple days.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
This is a band, they just said the kind of music they're playing. Mm-hmm. Should have you play instead. It's like, we're coming down for old country. It sounds like The Cure.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I've always been one of those, tried to make lists of the really funny festivals where you would get bands that are just so different. You wonder, if some of the fans had, brain freeze when they heard some of this stuff.
The Moody Cure.
Right. Well, when you get multiple stages, maybe if you're good enough, you put the weird bands on the same other stage at the same time because no one's going to want to see them both, right?
I even heard this years ago. One of my friends went to Toronto. There was it was for maybe the Rainforest. It was Sting and Bruce Springsteen. And I guess he said Sting was befuddled because he's playing. They didn't know what to make of him.
Yeah. Right. It's been a while since he played that big.
It's like the Grateful Dead and Metallica.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be like something else. But I just like the. But then again, you get people they experience. Some people might come up to see your Cure stuff. They've never seen it before, but you have fans.
Well, it's funny because even after we've been doing this 20 years, there'll still be people out there like, oh, we've got this Cure cover band. Like, oh, really? I'm like, I've known you for 20 years. How can you not possibly know that I've been doing this band all the time? So it's funny because people don't. You always think that everybody knows what's going on, but really, no matter how much you promote, how much you push it, there's always going to be.
Well,
people
I've heard
who just
that
don't.
too. Like I'll do like something gigs or even like I didn't know you did a podcast. What do I talk about all the time?
Right.
You know, but or like that or like gigs. Like people, a lot of things for gigs. I'll say there was a really good gig. I didn't know it was on.
One of these days, I feel like just when the people say, "Hey, so are you playing much?" Well, I mean, maybe if you came down once in a while, you'd see what I'm doing.
Call me on Facebook
You know what
or something.
happens? Like I think this, like years ago, somebody would say like so and so's having a party on whatever. These days, you are slammed every day.
Right. So much.
And then
stuff,
if you forget, you get. And I find people said they keep send invites because then you know what's going on.
Right.
But there's so much in every week and everything's short attention span.
And I don't like banging people over the head with it. It's like
It's like us with this. It's like I don't tell anybody like on my thing to like this, as I said.
I throw a thing on Facebook. Here it is. If you want to, now you know it's here. It's coming. I mean, what are you gonna do? You can go overboard with it, but I try to look. Come on, man. Just come here with me a couple times, and then.
But you get that romantic notion too that the work will speak for itself, and people will hear it, and and it just doesn't.
And I think there's a little difference in terms of you say the music of the Cure, you're going to get maybe some people as a fan base who like it. Well, you have to sell original music. Try to get your friends to come down, and then try to tell your friends.
Yeah, and I think that's why we kind of did this with that. Actually, a lot of the other guys have been doing original stuff, and there's just that disappointment there. You put all your energy into making these records and this stuff, and it just. Your friends listen to it. Maybe you sell a couple, but it's hard to
But what have been? We've asked this question on. What have been some of your weirder gigs?
Weirder gigs. Well, we did a gig. Where was that? It was sort of in this. Well, we did a gig in New York City at the Batcave, which is a well-known.
Wow! How did you?
Alternative.
Greg, you gotta find out.
I would have known. If I would have known, I would have been there.
Yeah, that was a fun show we did there, and that was an interesting show, and as far as weird shows, it's just this one is a really odd-shaped stage, and it was just like, it's someone almost like you're in this circular place in the middle of this room, and it's just like, where are you supposed to be looking? And we did a couple of times when we all crammed onto the stage at Monty's Crown too, which was fun.
Yeah,
I used to work there. Plus that you didn't fall through it. There were a couple times.
It's like we're over here on the side. You got to put the stuff on the wall.
See, I worked at the Crown, and I remember I'd be how many key band 3. You'll be okay.
Right.
4, we'll get keyboardist.
Yeah,
okay,
what?
you're in the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, downstairs in the bathroom. That's the best place for it. But yeah, we've had some good shows, and it's fun. We did some of, like I said, the traveling stuff early on, which was fun to go out with a bunch of guys and just kind of do these things. We played this place QXT's in New Jersey, which was really interesting because it's a kind of a goth alternative club from down there, and. We've got down there and they're doing this fetish thing kind of in the basement, and we're, playing upstairs, and it's just this whole, it's great because you get all these different cultures of
I'm trying
places.
to think in terms of what is our goth culture in Rochester. Any of you?
Well, I mean,
I know a lot of them.
It was the Bug Jar and Vertex, pretty much.
Well, I always go back to X, and I remember X a lot, Club X.
Yep, and, it's funny because goth is kind of, it's... In and of itself, it's kind of a small genre. It's more of an attitude with a lot of people. And there's a huge fashion side to goth. But as far as personally, I find the music there's just not a lot of it coming out that I would
Or you can always goth. I would always say Nick Cave.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of people would argue with that.
And I saw Nick Cave at the Electric Factory in Philly, one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Right.
And he doesn't look like a guy who'd be on your dad's bowling team anymore because he got rid of the mustache, which I'm glad. But you would, if you asked a crowd and you didn't show him, you would, generic crowd, you wouldn't see people, wearing the stuff or anything.
Right. Well, and it's just like anything else. You ask one person what it is and ask another person, you're going to get completely different answers.
And yet my friends, when I spot them with that guy, this is the kind of music.
Right. Exactly, and it's that sort of alternative vibe that people give off, which I love. I like people being creative with their expression of who they are, and we're very friendly to anyone. Like what I say, you know, we like anybody at Vertex. Anybody can come in. You don't have to dress up.
You could dress up as Barney the dinosaur.
Anything,
well, I don't know if we go that
as
far.
As long as you're not a jerk, we don't care. You know, anything.
That's my thing on that. It's like, I go through all the different music things.
Right.
Nobody's ever.
Well, it's funny over the years.
Except the punks. The punks, unfortunately, they are the nicest people.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem. It's like you go, don't even try. Come on.
Yeah, we've got a great, bunch of people that come in for that. But, I've got people all the time say, "Oh, I always want to go to Vertex, but I don't know what to wear." I'm like, it doesn't.
I
really
can't
matter.
find it, even though I've been there how many times. I don't know why.
Well, you know where Freakazoid used to be, do you? Don't you?
I know every
right. You
time
know
I've
where
been.
it is,
It's not
right.
like I haven't been there. I've been there through the years a lot.
Well, we do cloak during the day, so you can't see us. So you can only go at night. We only.
It's weird because I usually find but I always love like your theme parties too. Who comes up with those?
Usually it's the DJs. I mean, I don't do a lot of them because
so dressed like a purple chicken was yours?
No, that wasn't mine. No. Usually I don't do them on Saturdays. Saturdays tend to be our busiest nights, so I kind of like we try to do other events on the other nights to try to spread it out and bring more people around. But I just do my thing, and I enjoy it. So
and I think too that's how you think of like different clubs where everybody's gotten slammed during this.
Yeah.
But you think like a dance club.
Oh, yeah.
When you're not supposed to go near each other.
Right. You're supposed to, maintain distance. And there was not a whole lot of clear guidance from the state.
Depends what week. I remember.
For dance clubs.
They were playing at Roar, Anonymous Willpower.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we had, that was when the chicken wing thing happened, the day of. With chicken wing, this is not here because the chicken wings are food. And then, I would get, nachos from, Abilene as Danny, so chicken wings aren't food, but this is.
Right. Yeah, and it was a lot of stuff to try to parse.
I don't see how he could have said chicken wings are not a meal.
Well, and if you read that, it's not actually what he said. You have to really read through the thing, because the way Cuomo said that, he made this weird pause where he's saying, these aren't food, but he was saying food like chicken wings, and then he went on to say other foods. It's one of those things if you actually look at it. And,
but you know what people are going to. Yeah, but you know what people are going to do.
They're going to say right through
it. becomes a meme.
Right,
and it becomes there was the Cuomo menu at Roar, which is the half a cheese sandwich.
Chips and yeah. I mean, it was pretty crazy, and looking back on it, I understand the reasoning behind it, but trying to be in that, in that business is. Oh my God, every day, and you come out on Friday with some new thing, and it's like, Friday, you got to change it.
Friday, they're in love.
Friday, we're in love. But yes, and, trying to keep up with that stuff, it was stressful.
I try to balance, because yes, it's serious public health thing.
Oh, yeah.
We're not one of those, on here, it was made up, and it's they're putting chips in people who get vaccinated.
Right. Yeah.
But Kim Draheim, I don't know if you've heard this one, Greg, so I'm talking to Kim Draheim, and he said, some crazy anti-vaxxer showed the chip that they put in. It was a piece of a guitar thing, and some musician saw it and said, "Dude, that's a guitar tuner."
And how?
But then I went. But then some person answered, "They're putting guitar tuners in people."
Nice.
But you look up anything on the internet. Man. You look up the craziest thing you want to think, and there will be things that confirm it or deny it. And this was but I always look for both sides. So it's the public health thing, and I've been very careful. But these are livelihoods too,
right?
And that's the problem. How do you balance that?
It's tough, and
I'm a little nervous that people are just going to be lazy now. Yeah, I haven't gone out for a year. Screw it. Why should I go out now?
I'm mixed, where I'm going out a little, but I just can't. It overwhelms me a little bit, so I have to pick and choose. But I've seen at stores, I stopped in Wegmans the other day. It's getting more than 50% not wearing them. I still wear it, even though I got vaccinated.
And it's funny, which Wegmans you go to is going to be different. You go to East Avenue, you're going to see more people wearing masks. You go out, and people have different ideas in different areas, and it's
I noticed that. I noticed that difference.
But I couldn't see some musicians. I think a drummer would pass out wearing a mask though, on a hot day.
Oh my God! Yeah,
how did Bunny Carlos smoke those cigarettes?
I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know how anybody can smoke while they're playing.
Or ever.
Or ever. Yeah, I don't smoke. So
yeah, me neither.
Keith, one time I saw the Stones.
Hey, that's legal now.
That's right.
I'll never forget. I saw Jason Isbell at the Beacon Theater. It was a snowstorm. GPS rewrote us through Ithaca. It was just when they started. They had a big sign of Winnie the Pooh in a pot field.
That's funny.
Nice.
Oh, Eeyore. No, yeah, well, he was like Tigger. Now he's like Eeyore after that.
Right.
But that, you know what? It's like it's funny talking about the stuff like that though, because you watch like a movie like in the '70s. It's all about like the stoners. It's such a big thing about let's go, do the do you do the weed?
Right. There's never realistic representations either.
No.
There's always this.
I don't know.
Kind of crazy
Everybody
stuff.
I hung out with always want the food afterwards. I don't know about that.
We all want food all the time.
Well, that's a okay. Here we go.
Here we go.
Not that we know personally.
No. But I remember reading something, and it's all chemistry.
It's a cowboy song.
It's all
Cowboy song. It all goes back to cowboy songs.
They roll their own. No, it's all chemistry because apparently marijuana does something to your blood sugar.
To your blood sugar? Okay, I hadn't heard that.
So when you get hungry and the munchies and whatever you want to call it, it's actually your body, your brain, telling you to get straight.
Really? So it's like it's time to stop.
It's dropping your. That's partially why you get dizzy and weird and forgetful.
I thought it would be like a lie, like, well, I'm on my diet, but you know what? I smell that smoke. I'm gonna go have a pizza and blame it on the weed.
Well, it might trigger some weird thing, but that's what I read. That was like, it's the body's natural thing to okay, we got to get back to normal here. So if you eat.
So the key is to never stop smoking, because then you won't have to eat. You won't have to get back to normal.
Right.
Just keep smoking.
That's right. And drink beer.
You should try DJing.
Beer
the drummer DJs. That would be great. What would you have for a D? What did you find up with DJ Darkwave?
For me, it's actually the Darkwave is a type of a genre. It actually kind of
It's a comic book character. I thought of it. I thought of Darkhawk.
For me, when I came up with it, it was because it was like dark new wave, because I was always a synth and new wave kind of guy, but I liked the darker stuff, so I just kind of combined dark and new wave into dark wave, and that's kind of where I came up with the. It is a genre now, and it's been there are bands in that genre, and it probably was back when I started too, but it wasn't the reason I chose that name. So I think the first night I used it, I did a thing at Red. I don't know if you remember Club Red used to be.
I do.
On St. Paul, yeah.
And
I was doing something. I think it was something for a WBER thing, and they're like, "Oh, what's your DJ name?" I'm like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought of that." So I just kind of well, this works for me, and I've 23 years
it's not
later.
good. Like you look around, you see a map, and it's like a DJ Puget Sound or something.
Right. Yeah, you got to come up with something, but. Yeah, for me it was just kind of.
Greg could be like DJ Cowboy Songs.
DJ Cowboy Song.
I'm sure you'd pack the clubs.
I would get a kick though out of like
DJ
doing my
Big
little
Tex
catalog of stuff. I'd get a kick out of like picking the songs out, adding stuff in. Like I would get go to like some places like my friends work for a drink, and the stuff I would find on the jukebox. You do people, can we turn that off?
Right. Like who played this, right? Yeah.
But cool, I'm glad things are coming back and everything.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you have time for life pretty much a lot of it too, or just
I've got a teenage daughter, so I've got a house that I take care of, and my father.
And it had to be weird too, like with school and everything.
Yeah, she was home, and I'm working from home, so it was Fortunately, I have a large enough house where I've got my space, she's got her space, my dad's got his space, so it's it wasn't we weren't on top of each other all the time, so that was really a key. To keeping sanity.
It's just weird, but it's just coming back to normal, and I do think it's going to be a long process.
Right. I feel really bad for kids and teenagers in high school right now, man.
Right.
What they have to go through, and my daughter was 10th grade, she's a junior now, just finishing up, and it's just crazy. It's
Not having a graduation.
Right.
Thing,
how do you in the social aspect? I mean, in high school that really was that's where you kind of found your tribe. And,
the difference in generations. A friend and I said, "What? And if they would have canceled, we would have driven to Florida."
They still had to do school. It wasn't like it was not. They just had to do it from home. And
the only thing I think was good about it, I think I don't know how to exactly like. I was joking about it when this all first started. I said, well, people with OCD problems are still washing their hands 100 times.
Right.
Their life is now normal.
Right.
And like people like me, like social outcasts, like, I've been social distancing my whole life.
The kids that have
I'm a pro at
issues
this point.
in school relating, so now they don't have to have those anxieties. So they probably are learning better.
Yeah, I'm sure that there are some
of the other kids.
There are some kids who probably benefited from having the remote.
And like people who are like, I'm like a mix of social butterfly and outgoing, if you know. I mean, it's like you get people who very gregarious, who used to going out every night, and all of a sudden they're stuck at home.
Right.
You know, it's like there's no big enough jigsaw puzzle you could do to put together or anything.
Right.
You know, or
all
like
these remodeling
you know,
projects.
in the day, like being on the music scene, we'd like, hey, when you play in this week, okay, we're gonna go see this. Now it's like, we're not gonna go see that. Now who's on my computer this week?
Right. Yeah, and you know, the Zoom thing got old really quick. You know, it's just like
thing is, I mean, and bless them all, I support them, but it's the same. You know, what are you going to do? You got you and your guitar, and there's no feedback.
Exactly, and that's what I really missed from DJing at home. It's just like
now that being a drummer, nobody can throw fruit or vegetables at you.
At least they can't hit you, right?
But I'll duck anyway. Just
driving by your house.
Yeah, you get some friends to come over, throw like a bunch of grapes at me during the song, or like a tomato.
It'll be like one of those old TV shows where they'll come from the side,
right.
off camera.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing. Is not having those people there was just it's such a change of pace for me, because I always, when I'm DJing, I feed off the crowd. That's really what it is for me. And I get that. I even posted something this morning after doing my gig last night. It's like, man, I missed that energy from people. Just that idea of communion with people, and we're working. I always view DJing as kind of a collaborative art. Like, I can't do what I do without them.
Right.
And when it's working great, and we're kind of feeding off each other, and it's just like this. This
I think it's almost like you use the word in our tribe. I think that's like for the local original music scene. That's how we know everybody. You run in. I made so many friends because you'd run into them at the same show all the time.
Like, I hate that guy, but I know him, right?
Yeah.
That's who I'm like, I don't want to go, this character's coming out. Oh, come on, no.
Yeah, you get some of that, but, I think that's a good thing about Rochester. The size of the city is just big enough, but not so big that, you kind of get lost in it, right?
That's why I like any multi-band shows, because then you're meeting people that you would never meet.
Yeah,
because they're going to hear band X, or and then your people come, and then they get to meet other. You know what I mean? Then you've got, now they come over your side, you've come over to their side, and now you've got you build a bigger circle.
Right.
And that's always.
And I always
like
say, my saying is, see what you like, but then go see something you don't know. You may like it.
Right. It's very true.
Break out of that mold.
Well, it's funny. We've opened up for a couple of national bands.
Billie Eilish?
No,
Cowboys?
We opened up for the Chameleons UK when they played here, which was an
I'm not saying anything anymore.
At Water Street, so that was a good show. But it's funny because you get people come to see you and people come to see the main band,
right?
And it is an interesting, and to have somebody like from a main band actually sitting out there watching you, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting. There's this national act,
right?
A well-known guy and very well-known in the scene. And it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't say validation, but there's a certain amount of, we're doing something worthwhile. It's not.
Yeah,
just,
I mean, he could just go back to his room and
not
bother.
Exactly, right. So there's a good amount of that. But
I liked how Peter Gabriel would come out and introduce the opening band.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
So unpretentious in every way.
Yeah.
Just, hey, it's Peter Gabriel.
Oh, that guy, I know him. Yeah.
Well, but that's a kind of a good philosophy too, because then you're presenting an entire show, kind of. It's not us and them.
And I would like then,
competing.
for some, maybe like some bigger shows, you have to get a name, opening band, but why not, like if you're touring medium size, why don't you ask around, go, who are some really good local bands who would go well with us, and promote them a little bit.
Yeah.
Give a helping hand up.
Well, sometimes I think they do.
Yeah, and I've done that.
Sometimes they get stuck,
and
a promoter gets stuck for something, and he calls an agent, in town, and can you get me a band that's like this, or that does happen.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready, Johnny on the spot. I mean, you got to be like, hey, can you be there tomorrow, type of thing, or today, and it's like.
Oh, cool though. Very cool. We have what's coming up? Just you're playing, you're doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the show coming up. It's not quite finalized yet, so I don't really want to put a
good, because this isn't finalized what's going to come out yet.
Right,
so
right. Yeah, but hopefully July, and maybe some more shows towards the end of the year. It's we're on Facebook. We used to have a website, but we got rid of that, so it's just Disintegration on. I think it's just. I can't remember what our Facebook is at the moment, but you can look up Disintegration Cure Cover, or find it on there, and like I said, we're just trying to have
you have to get like sometime do a hybrid, do like Curvana, or something.
Well, we were playing with the band Murmur, who's the REM band. Yeah, so we did a couple shows with them, and that's kind of an interesting
Yeah.
I do the Cure meets Southern Rock.
Right. Well, the last show we actually played was November of 19. We played with Murmur, and we played with the Oasis cover band, which was kind of a really interesting three band thing there.
Yeah.
And I've been, it's another band that you don't think about. I liked them when they started, then you forget about them, then you go back. All that 90s stuff like Blur, Bush, all that kind of stuff.
Right. I like all that stuff.
I do too. Now, and the thing was, I got into it after the fact, a lot of stuff for Oasis, because I got their first couple albums. And what I like about that is it's new to me a little, because I don't get oversaturated with it.
Yeah.
Right. You don't listen to the radio that much, I guess. You don't get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, the thing I liked about 90s bands is they had a lot of energy, number one. Number two, I don't know, it was rock and roll, but it had a little more depth. And the drums sounded like drums. Yeah. The snare had a rang, and it was like, kang, It's like it didn't have that 70s nasty, flat-sounding drums.
No, by that time, too, like Oasis, they might have been influenced by the Beatles and stuff.
Right.
Plus the Davies brothers in terms of how they get along.
Right.
I was never a fan of the grunge scene. That just never really did
not
much
even
for me.
real either. If you see that movie Hype, it was like the stuff they played, and there was that one woman there, she just made up the dress and everything.
Right.
But the best funny story about that, I went to the Ottawa Jazz Fest one year. So go down, our friend Nestor, they're from Cuba, so they couldn't get in the U.S. for a while, right? We go down. The headlining band for a jazz fest is Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, that's a weird booking.
Yeah. Well, even here in Rochester, sometimes some of the bands they book for the jazz fest. I'm like, okay, I get it, but they're not exactly.
I think that's just to bring in
more people.
Oh yeah, I think they say jazz fest, but they want to try to bring in like the gym, because you might get like the obscure, the artsy.
And I think they expanded over the years. They just never changed the name. I mean, when they originally did it, there was much more, I think, jazzy.
Yeah.
But, you gotta open up your tent and make a bigger tent.
Yeah, but cool. So glad you're on. Yeah. Hope you had fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So cool, Greg.
Nice
Always
to meet you.
Greg, you'll be around every time. Yeah. So
Greg's always here.
We're not going to play anything by him because we don't want to get sued.
Right.
So actually, I'm going to play another one. This was like our good friend Greg Prevost, Greg Stackhouse Prevost, put out the album Songs for These Times. And this came out a while ago. Check it out. It's really good.
Cool.
The album, he had a white vinyl, which is cool.
Nice.
Wow.
And we're going to play this one. I'm just going to pick a number, but just don't pick 14.
Any but
7.
14.
Okay, 7.
Oh, not that one.
Okay, we're going to play Colors, but it's very special because it's COLOURS.
So, like the UK.
So very cool. So we're going to play Greg Prevost Colors. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yellow is the color of my true love's hair in the morning when we rise. In the morning when we rise. Well, that's the time. Say that's the time. I love the best. Green is the color of the sparkling corn in the morning when we rise. In the morning when we rise. Well, that's the time. Say that's the time. I love the best. The color of the sky in the morning when we rise. In the morning when we rise. Well, that's the time. Say that's the time. I love the best. Freedom is the word that I rarely use without thinking. Without thinking, about the time, say about the time.